Sasha Banks is reportedly in negotiations to return to WWE, but there is a hold-up with her contract talks with the company. Got very latest details on that. Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns is scheduled to take place in the future, but when? We've got the details on when that Undisputed Universal title match is set to take place. Speaking of Zayn, we've also got his WrestleMania 39 plans. Roman Reigns is set for a championship defense at the Royal Rumble, but against who? We've got details on that. Plus, WWE plans for a big show in India in January next year. The very latest on when we can expect the next WWE draft. Chelsea Green, is she returning to WWE? Plus, an update on the cultural improvement in the company. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE, and let's start off talking about the boss. Yes, former SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion Sasha Banks. Lots of talk about her pro wrestling future at the moment. Lots of teasers by Banks on social media, TikTok videos, AEW hashtags, WWE hashtags. What's the latest when it comes to Sasha Banks? Well, here is the latest update on Sasha Banks' WWE contract talks following the popular star teasing a return to the ring. Of course, Banks hasn't appeared for WWE since walking out on the May 16 WWE Raw taping alongside then Women's Tag Team Champion partner Naomi. Both stars were suspended and stripped of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships following their walkout, while Banks has been recently focusing on projects away from the ring. The star was recently spotted training in the ring with Juventud Guerrera. Banks since shared a new video on TikTok teasing her wrestling return with some interesting hashtags. As per Dave Meltzer on the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, the latest word is that contract talks have stalled over money. Meltzer said, quote, "They're in contract talks. The last I heard, it was a money situation. That was a long time ago, so I don't know where it stands right now." It was reported in August that Banks and Naomi had agreed in principle to make their returns. However, it appears that neither has put pen to paper as of right now. A recent appearance announcement fueled speculation that the boss is officially done with WWE, with the May 2023 Comic-Con Revolution event advertising Mercedes Varnado as formerly known as Sasha Banks. And to be honest, Meltzer's saying that that's the last he heard and it was a money thing. You have to take it with a pinch of salt, maybe about this big. And the reason that is because earlier this year, he said the exact same thing about Bray Wyatt. He said, last I heard they were in negotiations, but they were quite far apart and those talks had stalled. And then next thing you know, Bray Wyatt appears at Extreme Rules. So just because Meltzer has said that does not mean it's gospel by any stretch of the imagination. Ultimately, I still do expect Sasha Banks to return to WWE. By all accounts, she was recently backstage at a WWE live event. I believe it was in Mexico City, obviously, and she was training with Juventud Guerrera as well. That might have been around that proximity of time too. So I expected to return. I think people expected her to make either a return or some kind of appearance this past Saturday at the WWE Survivor Series War Games event. Of course, that didn't happen. It was in her hometown of Boston, Massachusetts, in the TD Garden. So now it's just a case of, if there are contract holdups, if there are contract talks that are stalling over money or what have you, there's plenty of time now, because the next big event is the Royal Rumble. That's 8 weeks away. If they want her to return for the Royal Rumble and be a surprise participant in the Royal Rumble match, they've got 8 weeks to figure out that deal. That's a lot of time. That's a huge amount of time in the world of pro wrestling. Look how much has changed in just a few days or weeks in the pro wrestling and WWE landscape this year already. So I still eventually expect it to end up with WWE. We did a story yesterday about her teasing that possible AEW signing. I would be really surprised if that happened. The only thing that AEW has over WWE is a lighter schedule. That's all they have. If Mercedes Varnado has all of these outside projects going on, such as films, TV series, The Mandalorian, albums, fashion, you name it. You know, you name what she's got her the pie she has her fingers in, as it would be say. The only thing that AEW could say is you literally have to show up once a week to TV, and even that's not every week. You can do what you want. Whereas WWE, you would think, would probably want a bit of a longer term commitment. You know, we need you on the road for TVs and a couple of live events, house shows, obviously pay-per-views as well, and that might be a little bit different to AEW. But frankly, again, if they're far apart on money, I don't see. Whilst AEW and Tony Khan does technically have more money than the McMahons, I would be really surprised if she ended up in AEW. And ultimately, I expect her to return to WWE at some point. Let's talk about Sami Zayn. Yes, Sami Zayn. The best storyline going in WWE right now is Sami Zayn and his loyalty to the bloodline, the honorary Uce, and there was an update on when Sami Zayn is planned to challenge Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Universal Championship. We all know at some point the Bloodline are going to kick Sami Zayn out, or Sami Zayn is going to do the right thing and, despite pledging his loyalty to the Bloodline at Survivor Series, walk away from the group and go back to the light side of the Force and become a babyface once again. And the date that WWE is planning to hold the inevitable match between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns has reportedly been revealed. At this past weekend's Survivor Series War Games event, Zayn seemingly pledged his allegiance to Reigns and the Bloodline, betraying Kevin Owens and allowing Jey Uso to score the victory for his team. But according to WrestlingNews.co, the harmony in the Bloodline might not last very long. Several upcoming plans are said to have been revealed by the site's sources, including when Zayn versus Reigns will take place. The report says that the current plan is that Zayn will face Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber event on February 18, 2023, which of course will be in Zayn's hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Prior to that, there is another match, a title match scheduled that we're going to talk about later on in the show, and also as well plans that are going to take place at WrestleMania following that. So we've got some really big events coming up. We've obviously got the Royal Rumble in January. We've then got Elimination Chamber in February with that match in Montreal, which Sami Zayn is scheduled for, and then of course we've got WrestleMania as well. Now, Roman Reigns' WrestleMania plans weren't specifically mentioned in this report, but we all know that WWE has been hoping for Reigns versus The Rock. Whether it will happen is still up in the air. As far as Sami Zayn, though, he's been getting a lot of praise recently from everyone alike, including the Tribal Chief's right-hand man, his special counsel, his wise man, Paul Heyman. At the Survivor Series, of course, as I mentioned, Zayn reinforced his allegiance to the Bloodline by betraying Kevin Owens and setting up Jey Uso to win the men's War Games match against the Brawling Brutes. At the Survivor Series press conference, Paul Heyman was asked about Zayn's importance to the group coming off the heels of the victory. He answers, quote, "The dichotomy that he has with every member of the Bloodline, how many times have you seen the Bloodline, absolutely cannot contain a laugh in the ring when we're in front of a sold-out arena with worldwide television cameras. Sami brings a dynamic that none of us were prepared for, and we're prepared for everything." In regards to the three-time Intercontinental Champion's connection with the fans, Heyman said, quote, "What Sami also brings is a connection with the audience that none of us can have because we've been too busy being the top act in the entire industry for over 2 years." Comparing Sami's role to a popular TV show, he said, quote, "Sami, to me, from my perspective and the Tribal Chief's perspective, represents the member of the audience who gets his one chance to step in the ring and live out his dream, and does it so well every week that we say, do you mind coming back next Friday? We'd love to have you as part of the act." That's who Sami has become. He's a guy who is going to get a guest spot on a TV series that ends up being part of the cast because he's just so damn passionate and so good at what he does. And you know what? That analogy is absolutely spot on. He was meant to be a guest star in the Bloodline sitcom. He was meant to be involved for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. You know what he is? He's Saul Goodman. He's Saul Goodman. I know people will say, well, actually, it's a lawyer, Paul Heyman's Saul Goodman. But the point being is that Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad was only scheduled for a few episodes in season 2. And because he was so good, they went, oh, we'll keep him on. It was the same with Mike Ehrmantraut. It was the same. So I think that's what Sami Zayn is. Now, to get away from those analogies, let's talk about Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. That match, whilst I expect Roman Reigns to win that match, because I think they would be crazy to end the historic over 2-year reign of Roman Reigns at the pay-per-view or premium live event before WrestleMania. That would just be wild. At the same time, Sami Zayn in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in his hometown, and we know what those Canadian crowds are like. We know what those Montreal crowds are like. That is going to be special. That is going to be an event that is must-see, can't miss. And again, whilst Sami Zayn I don't think is going to win, you never know, but I don't think he's going to win that one. That is going to be a really, really special moment and a special night, and I, for one, as a fan, cannot wait to see that match. That is going to be phenomenal. Speaking of Zayn, though, as we head into WrestleMania season, we're nearly there actually at the moment, aren't we? Zayn's WrestleMania 39 plans have reportedly been revealed as well. Despite how everything played out at Survivor Series War Games at the weekend, there's still a twist in the tale to be expected. According to WrestlingNews.co, the plan for WrestleMania 39 is for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens to challenge the Usos for the Tag Team Championships. This is what many fans had expected, but it became more uncertain after this Saturday's event, which seemed like it may have actually been setting up Zayn versus Owens. Of course, that match did take place at WrestleMania 37, so it's unlikely they would revisit that, even though it's a match that has been revisited a million times throughout both men's respective careers. Plans in the lead up for that, as I mentioned, are to include Zayn to challenge Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Universal Championship at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view as well, premium live event. And this is something I had speculated on, and to be honest, we'd heard recently that the plans for Sami Zayn had been postponed and had been... or certainly from Kevin Owens' perspective, they had been postponed and put on hold because of the popularity of Sami Zayn. And to be honest, I think the plan always was to have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens team up. You know, Sami Zayn was involved in the Bloodline, and we'd seen those promos and those backstage interactions with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn going back to this summer. And then they just kind of stopped. But they were essentially what we've seen recently of going, what are you doing? Why are you with the Bloodline? This is a bit weird. I'm not sure what you're doing. And the plan was for eventually Zayn to get kicked out of the group or told, stop hanging around us. People would feel bad for him. He'd turn babyface. He'd team up with Kevin Owens. They challenged the Usos for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships. That was always the plan. And that is, I believe, still to be the plan. Except now, because Sami Zayn's got so popular, because he's become so over, now the plan is we're going to do it at WrestleMania. Instead of doing it at some events in the autumn, which was probably previously the plan, we're going to do it on the grandest stage of them all. And you would think logically Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are going to win and they're going to end the record-breaking run of the Usos. Of course, the Usos are the longest-reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in company history, and that most likely will change at WrestleMania because Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, I think, will defeat them. Now, I had previously speculated that they might go in a direction of Logan Paul and Jake Paul versus the Usos at WrestleMania. But I guess with Logan Paul's injury concerns, it's a bit up in the air. Although Logan Paul did just drop a video this week and basically said, I have torn my MCL. I don't have to have surgery. I can rehab it. It's not as bad as I thought, so I might be back. And he never actually said an explicit time. But given that WrestleMania's in April, we're basically in December at this point, he's got 4 and a bit months. 4 and a bit months to recover and rehab, and even if he's not 100%, he probably would be able to make it through that match. So I expect to see Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And I mean, you could make it a triple threat tag team match. I mean, the star power would be massive. The Usos versus KO and Sami versus the Paul brothers. But does that become a bit of a sideshow maybe if they're involved in it? I suppose it does. So we'll wait and see when it comes to that one. But don't rule out, I think, the Paul brothers getting involved in that one. Speaking of Roman Reigns, we also, as part of this big plan that WWE now has in place, we seemingly have Roman Reigns' opponent for the Royal Rumble revealed. According to this report from WrestlingNews.co, Roman Reigns will defend his undisputed WWE Universal Championship against Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble in 2023. Ironically enough, a rematch from the match that took place at the Royal Rumble in 2021. Quite at the beginning of Roman Reigns' Universal Championship reign. He was facing off against Kevin Owens at the time. He just defeated him in a TLC match at TLC 2020. Then they had a rematch, a last man standing match at the Royal Rumble inside the Thunderdome. Kevin Owens, a bit like at War Games, had that match won, but it was Paul Heyman. Instead of Sami Zayn at War Games, it was Paul Heyman that interfered and allowed Roman Reigns to get the victory. As I mentioned, Owens notably teamed with Drew McIntyre and the Brawling Brutes to battle the Bloodline in a War Games match at Survivor Series. At one point in the bout, it appeared that Owens was going to pin Reigns for the victory, but Sami Zayn intervened, preventing the referee from making the count. As I mentioned, Kevin Owens notably feuded with Reigns early in his Universal Championship reign at the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021. As I spoke about previously, Owens challenged Reigns for the gold at the Royal Rumble in 2021 in a last man standing match, but ultimately came up short. Of course, since then, Reigns has defeated several opponents and ultimately unified the Undisputed and WWE Championship. He most recently defended his gold against Logan Paul at the Crown Jewel event earlier this month on November 5th. So KO versus Roman Reigns is kind of the feeling. I kind of spoke about this when I was speaking about the fallout from War Games. And that was that when you do an angle where basically you had the champion beat, you're probably going to get a title shot. And it was a hint of where the direction of where this was going to go. And it would appear that, again, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, they're all going to be sort of interweaved heading into WrestleMania. The key question mark, though, is what is Roman Reigns going to be doing at WrestleMania? That's a question we still don't have an answer to, and I think it's because WWE still doesn't have that answer just yet. Now, reportedly, it wasn't always going to be Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. The report noted that Sheamus was originally penciled in for the title feud, explaining Sheamus's prominent position in the feud ahead of the actual War Games match. It was also noted that there were discussions of having Reigns versus Sami Zayn at the upcoming Premium Live event. However, it was stated that the current plan calls for that match to happen at the Elimination Chamber event next month, or the next month rather, in Quebec, Canada, that being, as I mentioned, in February. And it does make sense with what you've seen on television. Sheamus certainly was being prominently positioned at the beginning of this feud. It was the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes. You had Sheamus being taken out by the Usos and the Bloodline and Sami Zayn, etc. And it made you think, well, eventually it feels like they're going to lead to Sheamus versus Roman Reigns, which would have been fine. But I guess given the Sami Zayn association, it makes more sense that it would be Kevin Owens, even though that has been done during Reigns' title feud. It makes more sense with the direction that they're going in, with this story with Sami Zayn, with, Elimination Chamber, and then eventually with WrestleMania. It makes more sense that it would be Kevin Owens. So I look forward to that match, but certainly, as mentioned, Kevin Owens is not going to win it. Let's talk about next year, and when it comes to WWE having big plans for a show in India. There is a new report on WWE planning to hold a major show in India in January of 2023. Now, of course, back in September, WWE held its first major event in the United Kingdom for a long, long time, since 1992. So it was like 30 years, basically, with Clash at the Castle in Cardiff, Wales. Now, earlier this month, WrestleVotes reported that there was chatter backstage of Raw, of an international live event taking place in January of 2023. It appears that the location has now been revealed. Per Sportskeeda Wrestling, which of course is an Indian-based outlet, the company is planning to host a major event in Hyderabad, India, this coming January. The report notes that the roster will be a mix of both Indian and international stars for the show. The event is slated to take place on Wednesday, January 18, as reported by WrestleVotes. This would put the show head-to-head with AEW Dynamite, which is set to take place from Fresno, California. Now, of course, it's not the first time that they've done something like this, not in India per se, but certainly an Indian-themed event. There was, I believe, Superstar Spectacle, which was in early 2021. That was still during the Thunderdome era, but it did very well and did big numbers for WWE. That's what this picture there is actually from that event. And I would assume that even when they were planning that show, they thought, in a couple of years' time, once we're able to go back out into the world again in this sort of post-pandemic world, we're going to go to India and do that big show. It's a massive market. WWE's always wanted to try and hit it. They've never successfully conquered it. No wrestling company has been able to really establish a foothold in there. But WWE doing these kind of international shows, I think, is a very smart business move from them. Let's talk about the draft. Everyone wants to know about the draft. When is that going to happen? We may have the latest news on when this draft is set to take place. With the show under Triple H putting less of an emphasis on individual brands, certainly with Survivor Series this past weekend, usually a brand supremacy event that was kind of taken away, some have speculated about the future of the brand split. While some talents have swapped brands since Triple H took over creative as Chief Content Officer, WWE hasn't held an official draft or shakeup under the Triple H regime. Per Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, there has been talk about holding the draft after WrestleMania 39 in April, noting that there were nixed plans to hold a roster shakeup earlier this year. Meltzer said, quote, "There's been some talk of waiting until after WrestleMania to do it. There was talk of September/October, which I guess is when it was traditionally done. There was a date that was even talked about at one point. They just didn't pull the trigger on it. This is something that's been discussed recently, so it's not new news. As I said, and this is just speculation on my part, my feeling is that WWE is going to wait after WrestleMania, then they're going to basically just vacate the rosters, start again, and then we're going to have a hard brand split similar to 2002 to sort of 2007. That's my speculation. I don't know if that's accurate. We'll have to wait and see what comes of that. Chelsea Green, there's been lots of speculation about Chelsea Green coming back to WWE, and as per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, they provided an update on Green, noting that the former Impact Knockouts World Champion didn't end up appearing at WrestleCade. Green was originally scheduled to appear, so her absence may be another indication that she may be on her way back to WWE. She was signed with WWE back in 2018, spent 3 years with the promotion before her release in April of 2021. Following her release, she had a brief stint in Ring of Honor before going to Impact Wrestling. She's also been in GCW as well. She had kind of pushed back on reports that she had already signed, but the fact she's being pulled from bookings is an indication she could already be under a contract to WWE. Finally, there's an update on the culture of WWE and the improvement of it under the new Triple H regime. If you thought the WWE product was better since Vince McMahon stepped down, there seems to be a lot more that has improved. This comes from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. With WWE delivering strong quarterly numbers, everything seems safe for the company in the post-Vince McMahon world. However, the backstage morale has improved significantly. Speaking with members of the locker room over the past several months, the culture has been changed based on those who are willing to speak on it. Almost everyone said that going to work was much more fun and easygoing compared to the Vince McMahon era, with one saying there isn't a perpetual fear of getting fired for things you can't control. Another noted there are still some talent that aren't being used effectively, but that's a vast improvement over where things were in the summer. The creative input and ability to improvise more was also touted. This was a huge contrast drawn from back in January of this year at the 2022 Royal Rumble. There were huge reports about how just sort of devastating the morale was and how terrible it was. Numerous talent that Fightful spoke with at the time looked back at that point near to an all-time low for them in the company, from creative satisfaction and booking standpoint to losing faith in Vince McMahon as a creative force and a leader in some sense. One said that they thought they would always maintain faith in Vince to some degree had it eroded from that show. Compared with the last several months, there is still optimism of Triple H's booking and creative despite there being some hiccups, and I think that's the key part in this. Whilst things are better to some, they are never ever going to be perfect, and those that thought when Triple H came in we were going to live in this perfect WWE world, that's not reality. There will always be issues, there will still be fallouts, there will still be people that fall out with Triple H or don't like the booking, and there will still be people that go back and forth, because that's pro wrestling. But certainly it's a better watch, and I can't complain about that. So there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak for you again very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.